Today we had retail sales coming in a little bit hotter than expected, and tomorrow we don't really get a break because we get building permits in the morning, but I think the more important thing and what will really decide at the end of the week how this market is going to behave is the reaction to the FOMC. We know that sometimes the FOMC does produce a positive or negative reaction, and a couple of days later that might actually flip around, so it's important we watch the signals and see if any reverse signals are popping up. We notice that the SPY overall has been pulling back with time, aka moving sideways in some kind of consolidation. Maybe that is going to be a continuation. We will see how this shapes up after FOMC, and that's what we need to be paying attention to as we look through some signals for the stock market, right? We want to pay attention to some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta. Looking over at AMC and GME, so stick around for that because that thing has done something very good on the GME side of things, and they haven't even started to fight the stock yet. I'm assuming that's going to change with tomorrow's data, so we'll pay attention to it, but let's get into it. We were talking about how the SPY has continued to hold sideways, and from this point on, we've really been saying that sideways is overall what the SPY is doing, and most likely we would continue to consolidate in some kind of sideways action to actually see if we're going to break down or break up with the FOMC. So it's good to have some daily expected moves. This is our 68% zone. Wow, that's almost as big as the entire week's weekly expected move. So I'd be paying attention to tomorrow because it means, hey, we can see a little bit more of a rip around. We're probably going to get a bigger move tomorrow when we do get that information, and we're going to see the reaction at the end of the day. So 609.03 to the upside and 599.55. The interesting thing about these levels, the topside move is up towards where we would really run into some kind of call wall around 610, and the bottom side is actually where we would run into a put wall at 600. So very interesting. It's almost like even if we do get that break up, we could see resistance here very cleanly based on the not only the daily expected move, but based on the options being placed, a lot of them at 610. So I would really be paying attention to if the first move is really going to be the real one, or if we're going to end up fading that over time, because it is assumed right now that we are still going to get a 0.25 cut, just so you are aware. I know that the inflation data, some of the inflation data has picked up, and some of the jobs data has actually picked up in that unemployment has been increasing. We have triggered the SOM rule, which should be affecting markets as soon as January of 2025. And we do notice that the first reaction could not be the correct one. And a lot of that is because a lot of people think that the Fed can raise rates here. And I'm just telling you right now, if they raise rates, that is going to be a massive, massive disruption for banks. So I highly doubt they can do that. So they're in a tough spot, just so you're aware. And most likely they're just going to continue on with it, acting like there is no problem there. Hey, maybe they're ignorant to it, but we know that there is a problem here. We remained in the consolidation. Now we broke out of this a couple times, but by the end of the day, you're still holding inside of it. So that's what we want to be paying attention to. And if this 2 hour does curl up, where is it? Positive territory, looking for a break of that upside move, then maybe we could target one of these daily or weekly expected moves. Now, is it all said and done from there, or could we just making some kind of point of divergence for that daily to actually pull back? Maybe we actually see daily positivity for a while, and then we actually see a daily divergence pop up here. Those are two bearish things that I would be aware of, but just note you are in a very, very positive trend. So something that we want to pay attention to is the 30-minute, right? I want to see how this 30-minute consolidates before the move. We can see down here, we potentially even have a double bottom. If you actually look at these two lows down there on the RSI, what are you going to notice? A divergence. So weirdly enough, the SPY is hinting that the 2 hour is very likely to curl up tomorrow and break the upside move, just so you are aware. If this is going to fail in any way, then it is going to remain in this consolidation and be able to break the downside, and that is where you would be paying attention to the bottom side moves towards 599.55 or 598.02, and that's what I'd really be watching from the SPY tomorrow. Let's get into the Qs. Now the Qs, we've been very simple about this, what we're looking for, but first let's get you some daily expected moves. First of all, daily expected move is taking you outside of the weekly expected move. That is something that you really have to pay attention to as we're looping down on the 30-minute, and the 30-minute here is where we see the initial weakness of a move, and then we see if that leaks into a 2 hour. We see if that leaks into the daily time frame. That's kind of how we like to do things here. 541.53 to the upside, 68% zone right in this area, and you'll notice that the downside move 530.07 is at the monthly expected move, that is in yellow. So you are above the monthly expected move with no reversal signal as of right now on the 30-minute. And what have we been saying for a few days? Hey, we're looking for something like this right over here. And I think we have that opportunity to create that tomorrow, and maybe we actually need to be paying attention to it because now we are outside of the monthly expected move. We were looking for it right here and notice the gap up to ruin all that. Awesome, that's fine. I haven't been really talking about trying to short this extremely bullish market. I'm looking for the opportunity to see some kind of bigger pullback that overall leads to more upside, because the daily time frame for the Qs, you do not see any kind of divergence here. And usually at those highs, you either get a lower high for the Qs or you see a divergence. We don't see either one right now. We see the Qs heading upward. We see almost an indecision bar. And so we might want to be paying attention as well to a 2-hour chart. As of right now, the 2-hour, you see that little blip down there on the MACD. Well, it's the last 2-hour bar of the day. You do have forms of divergence here. We can see slightly down on the MACD. We can see pretty flat, but slightly down on the RSI at the same time. So wouldn't one more trap make total sense, really get people bullish, and then we actually see this thing start to fall down? So that's just something I'm paying attention to right now with the Qs. I am leaning towards still the way that I'm going to know, hey, am I going to get that daily pullback? It's not necessarily to take a trade, but am I going to see something like that right over here? And that's when I really want to be paying attention, because a lot of the time people are going to hear, hey, they're still cutting rates, right? You've probably heard they maybe are going to raise rates. They maybe are going to raise rates. That's just not in. You have a 95% confidence that they are going to cut by 25 basis points tomorrow. They do a lot of what they say, but the initial reaction could be, yeah, that's awesome. We're cutting rates, but just know that markets do tend to top in some way on some good news, and that's what we need to pay attention to at this moment. So 30-minute divergence at the top is what I'm going to be looking for tomorrow. If we're going to continue in the downward direction, then hey, we're most likely going to see this start to fail right away early on in the day, and that news will just lead us into more selling. I am not leaning towards that. I am leaning towards a move like this, or some kind of maybe fizzle out for the day until we get to that data, and then we actually see that move upward for the Qs. Real quick, we don't talk about it often, but I do want to point out bullish signals, right? We're paying attention to things that maybe are bullish opportunities. This is still an extremely bullish market. If we see a low, we see a higher low. And right now, are we potentially going to see another higher low as IWM goes down to the daily 50? We need to be paying attention to that because we have the potential for this 2-hour to bounce. It's been very, well, I would say pretty oversold for a little bit here. Can we get a good reaction for maybe a retest? I think we actually can get some kind of retest of the breakdown area. And so what we want to be paying attention to is the fact that this has 30-minute divergence. Now, this has not confirmed, which could actually be a good thing for a trader, because that means maybe tomorrow, if we're able to see an upward move, hey, maybe this leaks down a little bit more. But if that's able to curl up, that would suggest you are going to see a 2-hour move up. If you can retake the 5, then I think you have a direct shot to test in this little area here. And we even have a weekly expected move there for you for IWM, 238.09 to the upside for IWM. Now, we do like to get into the individual stocks at this point. So I did want to point out Apple, and we're just going to talk about this very simply. Apple is starting to curl over on the 30-minute, but you're getting that squeeze behavior where you're not actually able to keep closing below the 9. So if this does leak down to the 5, look what happens every time we get down to that 5. We find support. And the reason I'm talking about that is because you do not see divergence anywhere in this area. You really don't. Look at my little dotted line there. We're above that area. So if this can pull back throughout the day and then get that good news later on in the day, we could actually see a reversal signal by the end of the week from Apple. That is a big stock, and I'd really be paying attention to it because it is in dire need of a daily pullback. This thing is going bullish and bullish and bullish. It can continue to be bullish, and that's why I'm not necessarily talking about shorting these things, but looking for the opportunity. The opportunity for something like Apple, just so you are aware, would be, hey, can this go down and retest the 20? Hey, can this go all the way down and retest something like 236.36, which would be a great level to retest our breakout area. That's what I'll be looking for from a lot of stocks. But it just tells me, if I'm looking at this plainly, if people start to yell stock market crash, well, we better see weekly timeframes turning over, because these daily timeframes are saying this has more work to the upside that can happen, right? We're just seeing that if this pulled back, where would it be on the MACD? Well, positive territory this whole time, which just means anytime this is dropping, if that just curls up, hey, you have a move that could take you higher to test this high, even go make a new one. We can see that very plainly with Tesla. And notice Tesla is once again outside of a weekly expected move. This is going pretty vertical at this point, and we are going to tap out at some point for Tesla, I believe. I believe we will. Timing that, though, can be difficult, and that's why I'm really talking about not necessarily shorting things, but looking for the next bullish opportunity, because look how high up this MACD is, right? Look how high up this MACD got right over here, and what did we end up doing over time? Well, we ended up going in the upward direction, and that's because we're still able to hold in positive territory. It's very difficult for a stock to completely break down, especially if it is a well kind of trusted stock at this point. And I think Tesla is that. It just has a ton of implied volatility. So the areas I'd be paying attention to for that pullback would be right in these levels. Now, as we go into the 2-hour time frame, now we know we're looking for a daily swing trade. Do we even have signals for the daily to pull back? And the truth is you don't at this point. So I don't think you have to have those reversal signals in order to see that daily turn down. If that daily turns down, we're looking for the daily pullback, right? We're looking for the daily to come down in some way, but the 2-hour is just screaming and screaming and screaming higher. So do I want to get bullish right here, or do I want to get bullish if this consolidates on the 2-hour and then reacts up in the next and makes another breakout area? That's more what I'm talking about, because you can pay attention to a 2-hour from Tesla, see if that thing's able to turn up, and you might have the next bullish trade. I'm very, very hesitant to be bearish at all on something like Tesla, even Apple at this point, because it really looks like we are going to get another move higher, and we're probably going to go through a period of time where people are going to go, oh, there's no Santa rally, oh, there's no Santa rally, and then we're going to end up going up into January of 2025. Amazon is one that is showing a little bit more weakness, right? We're getting the overall squeeze behavior. We keep rejecting on this 2-hour, and that's why you're not seeing an extended strong move here. You're seeing a lot of 30-minute divergence pop up and confirming it, and so that is going to be a problem. Okay, what does that mean overall? That means, hey, one, I should pay attention if that 2-hour does turn up, because that's when the positivity can kick back in. But right now, it really looks like the daily pullback is something that Amazon is looking for. It has violated the divergence on the RSI. It has violated the divergence on the MACD. So that means to me, if it is going to test something, maybe it goes and fills a gap or tests the 20 and then just turns up into positive territory. I'm trying to talk very simply about this so you can be aware of the environment you're in and just say, hey, these are very, very bullish moves. If I missed out on those moves, I could be really convinced at this point, especially by the media, to believe, hey, all this is extremely bullish and this is a great opportunity for a trader and blah, blah, blah. But really, the truth is you want to be patient. You want to wait to see when that opportunity is very clear. And this time was the moment that it was clear. So why can't we look for that again right in this area? And that's what I'll be paying attention to for Amazon. Nvidia, we noticed that there is weekly divergence, and that did confirm. So we were looking for that extended negativity, and weirdly enough, this whole head and shoulders might have played out, because where are you testing right now? Well, if we pull this out to a daily, we can see where the initial breakout for this overall good price action happened, and it was right in this little zone right here. And where did you test in today? Right there. Where did you have a weekly expected move? Right there. So this is what we want to be paying attention to overall from Nvidia. It's just if this is a positive move, right? If we see positivity. But we already talked about how a lot of things need a daily pullback. So if Nvidia starts to head in the upward direction, we still want to be open to the fact that that is negative and we could get a lower high out of this overall move. When we go into a 2-hour, you're just going to see how negative that is. And a lot of the time we need a 2-hour divergence to create a strong base. So this 2-hour could curl up for a moment, maybe even go positive and then reject. And then what we want to be looking out for is, does it make a strong base in this little zone right here in the future? I think that is a better thing to pay attention to. And two, if the daily is able to confirm up, we can always take the daily swing trade. As of right now, the 30-minute, you're just noticing that there's not a lot of divergence down here, okay? You can see it extended across on the RSI. You don't necessarily want to do that when you've seen a few curl ups and some wonkiness. We want to see it right here, and you're not seeing that at this moment. So the likelihood that this move, however high it wants to go, is going to fail is there. And I just want I want you to be aware, like, hey, the 5 is still all the way up by 135. So we could see a 2-hour cross up. We can go all the way up to 135. We could get through that and then end up giving it up. So I just want you to be aware of that. But if that is able to go strong enough to curl up the daily, it would suggest that we are going into positive territory, and it can be an extended upward move for Nvidia. Very interesting thing to talk about here when we get to GME. AMD, this is one I'm a little bit more excited for. Now, this is one that has divergences very, very clean. Look how clean these divergences are on the MACD, on the RSI at the same time. And you even got another divergence right now. Now, that has unconfirmed. So this is why we know how to manage trades, right? We always are managing our risk. Hey, that confirmed up. Okay, that is turning down on a 15 minute. So let me get out for a second. Okay, it's turning down on a 30 minute. I'm glad I got out. Okay, now if we see that breakout moment, this is exactly what you want to see, right? A lot of the time in these wedges, you're going to notice that at the lows, we kind of make little mini head and shoulders, right? So we want to pay attention to those because those are little liquidity grabs that can end up in the upward direction. So this 30-minute divergence here is saying we're going to get a breakout. We're going to see the 2-hour be able to give some more positivity. The 2-hour divergence down there is suggesting that AMD could possibly even see a daily uptrend if the daily is able to confirm up. You don't necessarily have the best divergence right here. You really don't have it on the MACD or RSI at the same time. So most likely that will retest a zone and actually fail for a moment. But what we're looking for is, do we see that extended positivity that creates a divergence later on, or do we create a big move that gets you all the way up here? That way you can create some kind of head and shoulders. That would be nice for AMD. That's all I'm saying with this one. But it looks like we are about to see some kind of 2-hour move to the upside for this. We do get data and things like that tomorrow. We do get the FOMC. So just know that managing risk tomorrow is going to be a very good idea. And we're seeing stuff from Meta like this, which is, hey, we potentially are trying to make a floor here. And you see that by the MACD getting close to the center line. It is almost divergence. If you would have came down just a little bit lower, I'd be confident in saying that. But it looks like to me this might be a higher low. And it's very extended, right? It's almost like this. It's up compared to the price action like this. So what I want to pay attention to is if that 30-minute crosses up, that would be the bullish thing for tomorrow. If the 2-hour is just going to continue to go into the ground, but that 30-minute divergence is suggesting there could be a double bottom here, which means another 2-hour move can happen up. Now, what I want to pay attention to is the reaction not only after FOMC, but a couple days after FOMC, because sometimes the initial reaction is good, and then we start to see weakness, and then we start to see a lot of weakness for something like Meta. And the reason that we could see a lot of weakness for something like Meta is just because the daily has been going up and up and up, right? Like every other stock, we're going to the overbought territory. We noticed that we were making a divergence. So can this continue? Yes. But if this daily starts to roll over, you have to treat it a little bit more seriously for Meta. So if we're able to curl down on this daily over the next couple of days, I'd be watching out. But it looks like to me, we're trying to make some kind of 30-minute floor to make a move higher, maybe to set some kind of trap by the end of the week. This is why we put out weekly expected moves over on Patreon. Now we're going to talk about AMC. Now, what's the recipe for success for AMC? Once again, trying to go test something like 437, our green line there. And if we're above that, we're a little bit better off. We're below it right now, so things can get a little sketchy. How close are we to the center line? Well, we are pretty damn close. We haven't even made it back above the 5. So if that 30-minute rolls, hey, watch out, because there could be a move coming on Monday, right? They most likely would like to push the stock down for the expiration, and then we might actually see people grabbing this thing. We do notice some more institutions getting into this. You're probably seeing a bunch of stuff on social media about, people buying premium and call options and things like that. And we'll see if this is good. But what recipe do we need for success here? The 30-minute needs to be positive in positive territory. The 2-hour has to be positive in positive territory. Right now, it's just positive, like, hey, we're getting some kind of bounce, but it is not across the center line just yet. So we might need to make a stronger base to actually form some good basing out structure in order to head in the upward direction. That's what I'd really be paying attention to for AMC. But this is great, and you can't talk badly about it when you look over at GME. Remember, 468 is what we need to get through to see something crazy, and you need daily momentum with you there. But I wanted to talk about GME because this is something that is saying, hey, we could be experiencing that melt up phase, that big phase that leads up into the weekend. You close up towards this on Friday, and then you see something huge going on into Monday. So that's something I'd be paying attention to here for GME. Fantastic. This is where the battle begins, right? And we are holding up here, and we crossed up on the 2-hour, and boom, to the upside. That's all fantastic. This is great. This means that the potential for this to see a crazy move is definitely here because you're closing outside of these areas. Just note, I wanted to show you guys a couple of things. What stock are they fighting as of yesterday? They're fighting AMC, okay? They're fighting AMC because if I pull this up for GME for yesterday's data, this is yesterday's data, we're gonna get updated data later, you're gonna see that this is turning up. So they are really fighting AMC, but GME, they are not fighting at all as of yesterday, which is very, very interesting. Because GME has held up at higher levels for a long time, you would think that they would be really fighting the stock, but you're noticing this is low. Now, we will see if this starts to increase when I get data in the morning. If you mention it during the live show, I will bring it up. Now, back over to GME, we need to be talking about the fact that, hey, this is a great move. Do you have the recipe for success? Well, you have it on a 2-hour. Why? Because the 2-hour is positive in positive territory. The 30-minute is positive in positive territory. And if that 30-minute pulled back, and then turn back up, you'd be just as happy with this thing because that means, hey, I'm making an extended move and possibly going to test this high, maybe even go make a new one. And if you're making a new high in crazy territory, right? If you're making a new high outside of this purple line at 30.59, hey, that's what Tesla's been doing. And look how Tesla has been for a little bit of time now. The only piece of the puzzle that is missing here is we got to check the daily, and you're noticing that the daily has not curled up into positive territory. So if we're able to do that tomorrow, it would mean that GME has a good shot of seeing an extended move, and you happen to be seeing an extended move while you're outside of 30.59 this week, which means, hey, we have a big chance of seeing something crazy for GameStop. Last note on GameStop, just so you're aware of the risk, this is the area where the fight begins. So I will check in and see if they're fighting the stock here. But as of right now, this is the area where the fight truly begins. And AMC is not even close to its yet, but GameStop is the real battle right now. I just want you to understand this is where flushes happen. This is where flushes happen. This is where in the past big gap downs have happened. So do not be surprised if you wake up tomorrow and the stock is fought. This is a battle, and this is when you find out, hey, who's going to win in this scenario? Is it the retail traders? Is it the overall people buying the stock? Or is it going to be the short sellers who want to force it down? They are starting to buy into the stock. So most likely if you do see pullbacks in this area, I believe the battle's already been won, and it's just about timing this thing now. Real quick, I wanted to pop over to volatility, and this will be the last thing we're looking at for today. We're noticing that is ramping up on the daily scale. Now, when should we really be worried about volatility coming in and staying in for a long time? Well, if you start to close below or above that 200, that's going to be a big deal. But I would say this weekly signal can really help you out in knowing if that's going to be an extended move in volatility, right? We notice when we do get those curl ups into positive territory, that's when volatility stays for a longer period of time. All right, we see bigger pops in volatility. Once that's able to cross up and go positive, we see a bigger pop in volatility. So if this is going to curl up, where is it? Positive territory, that's what I would be watching. Now, you know me, I am leaning towards this being a little bit more trappy. It doesn't mean we can't see that volatility come in. I'm just really liking the fact that it could pile up down here by 12.12, and that's something I'm still paying attention to. As I go into the 2-hour, you're going to notice that is going up and up and up. So is this thing reversing right now? Not necessarily. So this is why we really want to pay attention. If that 2-hour can get down by the center line and just cross up, watch out, because you might have even more volatility coming in as this continues to curl up into positive territory. If we look at a 30-minute, you're going to notice what? Well, one thing we need to be honest about is the fact that volatility can pull down tomorrow. Now, this isn't the best reversal signal in the world for volatility to drop, but it is showing a divergence not on the MACD, but there on the RSI. So if we see weakness early on in the day tomorrow from the VIX, we actually do have a likelihood to turn down this 2-hour, get by that center line, and maybe curl up into positive territory after we test that 5-day moving average. So I think the main takeaway here is let's pay attention to the signals after FOMC. Let's see if we initially get a bullish signal and if it creates any kind of signal that could lean towards a pullback at this point. I mean, a lot of the time with these FOMC moments, we will see upside for a couple of days or even downside for a couple of days, and then we end up creating some basing out structure that actually leads it in the other direction over time. So that's what we want to pay attention to. I think you have a high likelihood to see people react in a good way to the fact that they are going to cut rates most likely by 0.25. If we get a surprise, hey, we're going to have to pay attention to that, and I'll probably be putting a Patreon video out so you can be paying attention to those signals too. So thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. I know this video is coming out a little bit later because I had a dinner with the in-laws, but got to keep the in-laws happy. You guys know what I'm saying. Hey, I wish you guys nothing but luck with your trades. I'm just trying to be helpful. If you disagree with me, please come to our live show in the morning, and I'd love to hear your opinion. I am not someone who thinks he's always right. I just want to pay attention to multiple multiple things at the same time and see if we can formulate a good decision with our money. And that's a big portion of it. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing. I hope you guys have a fantastic night. Say hi to the family for me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.